Hi everyone, it's Pippa from The Advantage here, Specialist Support Services for girls and women with ADHD. Today's topic is ADHD and eating disorders and disordered eating. But before I launch, I obviously need to say to you guys, I don't have any medical training or any clinical background, and if you think you have an eating disorder, you must seek specialist help. This is not something to be managed alone. You will need very skilled intervention to get over this. But you can recover, of course, but you do need proper supervision, proper support, proper understanding. So please don't rely on this information to do that. This information is basically based on my research and a little bit of my anecdotal experience, and it's not supposed to be comprehensive. It's just supposed to really raise awareness of something that I think is really important if you are a woman with ADHD. So eating disorders then are they are behaviours that have clinical criteria that, if met, you can be diagnosed with an eating disorder condition. So that these criteria are found in the current Diagnostic Statistical Manual, which clinicians use. Like I said, if you meet the criteria for certain ones, then you would be diagnosed with an eating disorder. There are three main types of eating disorder. One is anorexia nervosa, which I'm sure you're familiar with. It's a pattern of very restrictive eating around the frequency of eating and around the amounts of eating, and the person experiencing the condition is literally terrified of gaining weight. They are experiencing body dysmorphia, so they are seeing weight and fat where there isn't any, and they cannot tolerate it. But this behaviour can be hugely damaging physically to their bodies, to the point that their body really can't support all their functioning, and they may well end up hospitalised, or worse, it can be life-threatening. The second one is bulimia nervosa, and that is characterised by binge eating, which is when you consume big quantities of food quite quickly in one go. Perhaps it's sort of inappropriate types of food as well, but you take way too much on board, and then you experience kind of guilt, self-loathing, remorse, regret, because you don't want to gain weight. That tends to be the reason why you want to do something about it. You don't want to gain weight, and so you purge. And purging can be done in several ways. It can be when you make yourself sick, so you regurgitate the food, or it could be that you use laxatives, diuretics, that type of thing to try and flush it out the other way, but to try and get rid of the impact of that binge on your body is the thinking that's going on. This can be very damaging as well for our bodies. It can be very wearing on the systems and functions of our digestive system and that type of thing. And it can have a huge impact on our self-esteem and so on. Beyond bulimia nervosa, there is something just called binge eating disorder, which is binge eating but without the purging, so sort of just taking on very big quantities. It's a regular pattern of taking on very big quantities of food, probably the wrong sort of food, and that's causing you a problem. So that's eating disorders. We reckon between 1% and 3% of the population experience an eating disorder. So it isn't uncommon, I guess, but it's not rampant. I guess it would be likely that we would know someone that has been touched by this in our lives, but we won't be surrounded by it. What is more common, however, is disordered eating. And disordered eating describes, it's kind of an inclusive term that describes a sort of dysfunctional relationship with food, which can then be transferred to a dysfunctional idea of our own bodies, and a dysfunctional use of maybe exercise as well, linked to how we feel about food. So I don't have a precise number on this, but I did hear someone say that in the United States anyway, she estimated about 50% of the adult population are engaging in dysregulated or disordered eating. I've seen another number, 12% of adults engaging in this. But anyway, the point is it's more common than an eating disorder. But what you need to know about it is that if you engage in that, you are more vulnerable to an actual eating disorder, because it can be the preliminary phase, if you like, that tips into to an actual diagnosable condition. So what's the difference? Well, disordered eating can reflect some of the symptomology of the actual eating or disorders we discussed, to do with restrictive patterns, to do with purging and binging and such. But if it isn't presenting as a big barrier to you, if you are still able to function as your peers are in your workplace, as your peers are in school, and hold your own academically, if still you are engaging in a social life that's bringing you, joy, happiness, excitement, that type of thing, then it's not, it won't be an eating disorder. When these behaviours take over and they prevent you from living the life that you wanted to live, that you longed to live, if they're preventing you from experiencing peace and sort of satisfaction and calm and joy, if it becomes that much of a barrier that it's all you're thinking about, then probably you've tipped into an actual disorder. So in their book, Understanding Girls with ADHD, that I guess you guys will be familiar with, it's by Doctors Lippman, Naidoo and Quinn. They are considered to be some of the leading experts in female ADHD in the world. It's a great book, by the way. Talks about girls with ADHD at the different developmental stages, so how to recognise ADHD in a certain age group of girl, and then what you can do at that point to support them. So I really recommend the book. But when they're talking about sort of adolescent girls, they cite two studies, and the first one is a 2007 study. I think it was done in Harvard in the United States, and it was looking at the prevalence of adolescent girls with ADHD developing eating disorders, and the results are really actually quite terrifying when they are revealed. So what they found overall was that compared to typically developing girls of the same age, girls with ADHD are 3.6 times more likely to develop a diagnosable eating disorder, that we are 5.6 times more likely to develop bulimia nervosa specifically, and 2.7 times more likely to develop anorexia. That, I think, is a very stark contrast between an ADHD girl and her typically developing peer. We are vulnerable in this regard. The second study is from 2008, and it was looking at the eating pathology of girls with ADHD, and what it found was the single biggest predictor of a girl developing an eating disorder is an ADHD diagnosis. That really stopped me in my tracks, guys. Just having an ADHD diagnosis means that it is very likely that I am going to end up with an eating disorder if I am not supported, if I'm not aware of it, if I don't treat my symptoms. I may fall into an actual eating disorder. And I think there are obviously lots of reasons, but some of those reasons are linked to the actual symptomology of ADHD. So, for example, girls and women with ADHD are largely inattentive, and our inattention can mean that we forget to pay attention to the nutritional needs of our bodies. We don't think about it, we don't plan for it. We're perhaps not that interested in it for a start. We're not terribly good at paying attention to the cues that our body gives us, that the hunger signs and the signs that we are in fact full. We can sort of override all of that if we are in hyperfocus on something, right? So our inattention can be a difficulty here. We also can forget to go to the shops and buy the nourishing food that we need, and also to plan for time to cook and prepare this nourishing food. that we need. So we're a little bit on the back foot here, and therefore we need to be more mindful about the choices, well, getting to the shops, I suppose, getting to the shops an actual thing that we actually do when we're in the shops, making choices that ensure that we are getting the balance we need to support our brain function and our body the best way we can, and to plan for time to prepare this food, so we don't make sort of poor choices that can slip into bad habits and disordered eating and so on. So obviously, we all struggle with impulsivity, don't we, as ADHDers? So, I mean, this can sabotage us in terms of our eating, in so many ways. But, like when we're in the shops and Jaffa cakes are on like buy one, get one free, you can end up with 500 Jaffa cakes in your trolley easily. And, it's a great price, aren't they? They're practically giving them away, and you don't want to miss out on that. Yet, when you bring them all home, you're tempted to get started. I'll just have one while I put the shopping away, and before you know where you are, a whole packet's gone, and you're quite liking those. And also there's no effort required, as in to prepare them. I've just got to open the packet, right? Before you know where you are, you could well have taken on board way too many Jaffa cakes than is actually good for you. So impulsivity is a problem. We also would struggle in a situation where there is an unlimited amount of food available to us. We're not terribly good at the stop signal, putting the brakes on. So all you can eat buffets or any sort of buffet experience can be a real problem for us, because we impulsively want to experience everything on that buffet. It all looks beautiful, right? I want to try it all. And I don't hold back and think, well, you know what, am I full? Listen to my body, am I full? No, I just think, well, I haven't tried the cheesecake yet. Get over there and get stuck in. So impulsivity can be a real problem. Also, I guess that food can become like a kind of sort of self-soother. It is hard being a girl and a woman with ADHD, and we can be feeling very shameful and very anxious about our difference, and not want to reveal it to anybody in the outside world, so at school, at work, let's say. And we can turn to food to try and sort of meet an emotional need, to comfort us and make us feel better, I guess. I certainly relate to this. When things go wrong for me, I am straight there in the cupboard. Where's the chocolate? Where is it? Because I think it will make me feel better. I mean, it is obviously not going to make me feel better, or certainly not for any length of time. But I know about myself that's a pattern of behaviour that I have probably done my whole life. But now I know why, and I have a chance of addressing it. It doesn't always follow that actually I'm soothing myself from something difficult that's gone wrong. It could be that I'm just bored. I could be stressed, could be anxious, could require stimulation, because eating is a very stimulating activity, and any stimulation creates dopamine, and as you know, we're lower in dopamine. So if there is a stimulating activity that I can engage in without much effort, without leaving my house or even my kitchen, maybe I'm just going to lean into that, because I am longing for that stimulation. So that might be another reason why we do it. I would say that a lot of us feel that we are less than what we should be, and that we're not fulfilling our potential. We can feel that we are inadequate, that we come up short. And when we feel that way, we are vulnerable to looking for quick fixes. And sometimes, food can do that for us, but obviously temporarily. So that's obviously an issue. Also, I think that there is a danger that we can get overwhelmed with all the information about food, and all the different types of food, and the different types of proportions of foods I should be consuming in my day. I think it could go one of either way. The overwhelm could cause us just like not to care and just grab whatever's easiest, and not really think about it. or it could really get our hyperfocus going, and we could start to read about food, we could start to research about food, we could start to get books out, buy books on food, watch programs on food, and become literally an expert on it, bordering on obsession, and that can tip over into perhaps like kind of OCD style attitudes to foods that we need to be careful of. So we need to watch out for that as well. Now, in terms of treatment, if you have an eating disorder, like I said, that needs specialist medical support. So you would need a physician, a dietitian, a nutritionist, a psychologist, a psychiatrist even, as like a team around you, addressing all the different aspects of how to treat and manage and get over the disorder. If you have ADHD though, it absolutely must be delivered through the lens of ADHD for it to be properly understood and addressed. So if this is you, and if you are going to get treatment, which I hope you will, you must make sure there's an ADHD specialist on the team supporting you, because otherwise any sort of treatment plan that relies on you putting things into place for yourself, it simply won't be effective if they haven't thought about the ADHD part as well. Like I said, these are very serious conditions. The statistics say that about 15% of people with eating disorders end up losing their lives to them, one way or another. So it could be the physical damage they do to themselves, it could be the emotional damage which causes them to believe that life isn't worth living and for them to take their own lives. It could be that they put so much pressure on their organs, the organs give up and life cannot be sustained. But it is obviously very alarming to hear how vulnerable we are to eating disorders, and how people with eating disorders can end up losing their lives to it. We need to be aware, we need to protect ourselves, and get the information out there to people that need it. Of course, recovery, like I said, is possible with the right support. So if you are listening to this and thinking, okay, I think this is me, I have an eating disorder, I would really urge you to go to your GP and share the information with them immediately, and they will put you in touch with the people, the specialist people that can support you. I would also really encourage you to tell someone else, like, not to be alone managing this, because this is big, this is serious, and you will need people, a network to support you. If going to the GP seems like too big a step right now, then at the very least I would urge you to contact, there are several charities. There is one in particular called Beating Disorders that has a phone line. It's not 24 hours a day, but it is 365 days of the year. I said it's called Beating Eating Disorders. I will, or I'll tell you the number. It's 0808 801 0677. That's the main helpline. It's open from 9 AM to 8 PM every day of the week, 4 PM to 8 PM on weekends and bank holidays. Reach out. Do not try and manage this alone. I really hope this information was useful to you guys, and that it will help you, help yourself, or another girl or woman who's experiencing eating disorder or disordered eating, help them get the support that they need. Thanks. Bye.